justice.
Drip too hard, don't stand too close.
Hello, Sergeant Be Safe, Captain Chaos. I'm your new district attorney, just in case.
Hello, just in case. Nice to meet you.
Yes, it's a pleasure. I'm glad we're all on the same team.
Yes, locking up bad guys. Let's go inside the courthouse and see the judge. We have bad guys to put away.
You are absolutely right. Let's go inside and get to work.
All rise. I am the Honorable Judge Mint.
Good morning, Your Honor.
Attorneys, present your closing arguments.
I'm a defense attorney scot-free, and my guys didn't do it.
The proof has been laid out, Judge. Sergeant Be Safe and Captain Chaos caught these guys red-handed.
What you mean, red-handed? Order in the court.
I find these three guilty on all counts.
Ooh.
Well, I'm out of here.
I'm innocent. I didn't
What do you
sell
mean
crap.
guilty? I don't hack.
Good work.
Yes, job well done, team. I just want to say good job to our brand new district attorney, just in case. And from me and Captain Chaos, that's your tip of the day to get you on your way.
Welcome to Black and Blue, the podcast that's just for you. We bring solutions to everyday problems. We are here to humanize the badge. By interviewing first responders and discussing their trainings, experiences, and publications. Black and Blue airs weekly at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Tune in.
Let's go start the show. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Black and Blue, where we go live weekly at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I got a special guest in the background. Some of you may know him, others of you may not. But by the time that we start this podcast and we get to talking about him, you will enjoy it. You will learn something. You will have a good time. This is Black and Blue. Like I said, I am your host. I am Coach Clay. I'm your motivational speaker, your empowerment coach, your author, and your favorite baker's favorite baker. Thank you, guys. We are streaming on 5 different platforms right now. We're on 2 pages on Facebook. We're on 2 pages on YouTube and 1 on LinkedIn. So if you're looking for a shout out, I can't see who's on here unless you put something in the comment section. So you got to put something, either your name and where you're from in the comment section, and you'll get that shout out that you're looking for. Or if you have a question, because this is interactive, you got to put your question in the comment section and we'll address it as soon as we can and at the moment's notice when we get that information. I see Seti P's on here. Shout out to you. And thank you for the voiceover. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure you tag, like, and share. Make sure you guys hit the like button on the way in. Make sure you guys hit the like button on the way out to keep the algorithm going, because we want to get this information out here. This is Black and Blue, where we humanize the badge. We interview first responders and law enforcement officials who have trainings, publications, or experiences, and we have those conversations with them and we learn more about them, just like we're going to do today. All right. And you see the website scrolling below, workwithclee.com. It's also in the comment section as well. Make sure you guys check that out. Not now, but make sure you do it after the live. If you're looking for a slot to get on the show, that's how you do that thing. If you're looking for information on some of the books that have been published by yours truly, that's how you find that information out there. If you're looking to do a voiceover for Sergeant Be Safe, that's where you put your bid in. All right. I hope you guys like the new background as well. It was under construction for a while. I like it. We got the signs. I thought the signs will look better with the lights on, but it actually looks better with the lights off. Let me know what you guys think. All right. We're still adding to it. We're still doing a few more things. This podcast and Sergeant Be Safe is sponsored by One Way Publishing, like I said before. So on the website scrolling below, One Way Publishing is our sponsor, where their motto is they turn a mere thought into a book that's bought. So therefore, if you go there, if you're looking to write your own book, that's your publishing company. If you don't just had a mere thought, you don't know how to get it done, that's your publishing company. Whether it's fiction, nonfiction, cookbook, children's book, what have you, they can get it done. All right. But you see, I'm fumbling over my words, so I'll let One Way Publishing explain it 10 times better than I can. Publishing. Have you ever wanted to explain something, tell a story, or leave a piece of you behind? Have you ever wanted to write your own book, but not specifically know how to do it? Well, get ready. One Way Publishing's here. We can turn a mere thought into a book that's bought. People need to learn from you. They need to hear that story. Kids need to read that book. Imagine if you wrote your own children's book and get to read it to your kids. Here at One Way Publishing, we can get your fiction, nonfiction, fantasy, instructional, what have you, done. All at a reasonable price and definitely a reasonable time frame. And if you don't believe me, ask Sergeant Be Safe. He's working on his right now. He's definitely writing the best chapter of his life. Make sure you check out his cartoon skits that air on the podcast Black and Blue.
As Sergeant Be Safe said, that's your tip of the day to get you on your way.
And there you have it. That is One Way Publishing. Turn a mere thought into a book that's bought. Seti P said he loves a new background. Job well done. Thank you very much. I like it too. It's a lot of fun. Makes it look very, very interesting. And it's a lot more, it's comfortable to actually host individuals coming on the show. I got a special individual right now. He, some of you may know him. His name is Steve Sweeting, Sergeant Steve. He's backstage right now. He give a quick bio about him. He's in Florida. He's a Florida patrol sergeant. Correct me if I'm wrong. I know he did 4 years in the Marine Corps, even though Army leads the way, but did 4 years in the Marine Corps. Been overseas a couple times, handling things along those lines. He's the founder of Street Stoic, also the author of the book itself, Street Stoic, and we're going to learn exactly what that is, and we're going to talk about that. That's his book. Let me get his banner up here so you guys can see. His website is also in the comment section, and it is now scrolling below as well. Make sure you guys check that out. If you haven't got your copy, I got mine on Amazon. Make sure you guys get your copy there too. But without further ado, we're going to bring him to the stage and get these banners. No, the StreamYard doesn't like to work with me all the time. There we go. There we go. Steve, are you there?
I am here, Clee. How are you?
I'm wonderful. I'm wonderful. Thank you for coming on to the show and blessing it. I'm glad that you're here. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, please?
Yeah, you hit a lot of the high points. I am a patrol sergeant. I've been in the game about 18 years now, and I've been on a midnight shift pretty much the whole time. So, here in Florida, we're in a college town, and I don't say my agency, but it gets very swampy here, and we have the most Tim Tebow statues out of any city in the world. So you can probably figure out where that is. Anyways, it gets pretty wild here. It being a college town, midnight shift, Florida. I've definitely seen some good stuff out on the streets, and I've been in patrol the whole time. Yeah, like you said, I was in the Marines. I was an infantryman, and did my 4 years, worked my way up to squad leader, and decided I would go ahead and get on out, go to college, do those sorts of things. Then I was actually on a different path. I was going to go to business school, and 9/11 happened. So I went ahead and dropped out of college for business, and went and found myself a police academy, and said, hey, it's time to serve. So that's what we're doing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so I know, and I listened to a prior interview, so I kind of got a little heads up on some of those. When 9/11 hit, is that when you exactly got your burning desire to answer the call to actually, I need to go ahead and serve and give back, and I'm going to get in law enforcement? Was that the bug, or was there anything else that happened, or anyone that kind of gave you the bug beforehand?
Well, my dad was a police officer, and he was a SWAT guy. Our family pet was the canine dog, right? I grew up on the SWAT training range, and just, running around the police department as, a little kid, just playing with handcuffs and, pointing at the, suspects where they were in the interview room. And, it was just my life. I didn't initially plan on being a police officer. I'd always been interested in the military and, guns and those kind of things. But, I was going to get into, and my father actually, he didn't want me to be a cop. He didn't want me to follow in his shoes. And, he encouraged me to get into business or do something that would be a little more easy in life. But, said, well, hey, I am going to go into the Marines and at least get it out of my system. And, did that for my 4 years. And, once 9/11 happened, I realized, I wanted to serve. I felt compelled that, like, look, you're on this earth for a reason, and it's not to get rich, and it's not to make a bunch of money or run a business. It's to help my fellow man. And I just started to believe that more and more, as I grew up and matured a little bit. So 9/11 happened. And at that time, and it seemed strange to go off and join the police academy, but then at that time, it was, we thought the terrorists were coming and we were going to be in the streets fighting them. Right. And we thought the police were going to be the new front lines. I mean, it didn't really turn out that way, and that's a good thing. But at that time I was like, okay, this is how I protect America. So that's what I did. And, but no regrets. I've enjoyed the profession, and I'm glad things went the way they did. So.
Yeah, I totally understand. Around that time too, I had that same mindset, and I thought that, wow, this is going to be the new Red Dawn, and
right.
This is where it's how to fight back. And me and a couple guys that I knew, we were like, you can either sit back and watch it happen, or you could do something about it. And right. I'm a second generation police officer as well. My dad was a cop, and just. I was in the Army, so actually being in active, full-blown, go get them kind of atmospheres was like, yes, there's something that needs to be done, and if I'm going to be a part of this world where this is going down, I at least want to be on the fist part of it, per se, if you get the analogy there. Yeah, absolutely. I'm not going to be on the sidelines. This was like our great moment in history, just like World War II or some of the other generations before us. And this was our defining moment. And I wasn't going to
sit back and let somebody else do it. So
Right.
yeah.
Exactly. So then you became a police officer. Was there anyone who took you under their wing and became a mentor or influenced you to rise to the level of supervisor throughout your journey?
Not so much. Getting to supervisor, it was kind of an internal thing, and I just there were people that I looked to. There were sergeants that I looked to who I wanted to be like them. They weren't necessarily saying like, "Hey, Steve, you need to go promote or you need to work your way up the ranks" or anything like that. But I definitely, it was like, oh, well, what you are, I want to be like that, And I had one sergeant, his name's Steve Baker, another Steve, and he, he was just the kindest. He was, a big guy, but he was very gentle and just a kind, patient mentor, and that's exactly what I needed when I was coming up because I was, I was full of it, and I was pretty wild, and he always had a way of bringing me down a notch and keeping me where I needed to be, and he kept me in the game long enough to learn a better way and to learn, like, oh, it's not all about running and gunning. Sometimes you got to use your noodle, and he taught me how to do covert plainclothes work, catching burglars, and that wound up being pretty much my favorite thing to do, which is just going out into the night and watching people until they commit a crime and bringing them in. It's something I've always loved to do, and he's the one that got me started down that path. So
gotcha. Yeah, I know. Yeah, and another podcast you talked about some of your experiences doing the trainings that you had doing covert activities. And it sounded like a lot of fun. Trust me. I know it has its goods and bads. I know you talked about how you get to catch the bad guys, but then you get other alphabet agencies on the side of law enforcement that don't know that you're a good guy and want to go ahead and apprehend you as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You're out in the streets and you do your best to deconflict and, let everybody around you know, like, okay, we're out here, but people don't always get the message. And, when there's a lot of overlapping jurisdictions and a lot of agencies all work in the same area. I mean, hell, man, like it doesn't have to be another agency. It could be your own agency. Yeah. It could be somebody you just talked to 20 minutes ago, because when that, tunnel vision kicks in and people get all hyped up because they're responding to a felony in progress, like they'll be listening to your voice. I'll be on the radio saying, okay, the bad guy's wearing a red shirt, and they come in and I'm wearing a black shirt, and next thing I know, it's hands up, it gets scary, and it definitely, something that comes with a little more danger than regular patrol, but to me, it's worth it. I'll take the trade-off just because it's something I love to do.
Yeah, you gotta have fun while you do it. Trust me.
Absolutely.
So I want to jump into your book, Street Stoic. The ancient philosophy of modern policing, right here. I got mine on Amazon. Got your website scrolling below. I know you have a link tree to everything that you have going on. So, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you guys check that out. But what actually got you in wanting to write a book?
So it was the benefits of Stoicism itself that really made me want to write the book. So, I, without getting into, all of my exploits and stories and stuff like that, I have been through several critical incidents in my career. I've won 2 of those Medal of Valors right there. And, anybody who knows anything about police work knows, like, you don't win one of those unless you got a little PTSD to go along with it. And, one of them was an officer shooting and an officer rescue where somebody I was pretty close with got pretty badly beaten up. And another one was a car fire with a lot of death, and I was only able to save one person out of like 6. Anyways, I had a lot of need to be resilient and a lot of need for, these skills. Plus, like I said, in a college town working midnight shift in Florida for 18 years, you just day to day, it gets wild, and you need tools and techniques to keep you in the game and not get burnt out and not develop some, pretty bad mental health stuff along the way. Me personally, I found myself as a young supervisor and around 2020-ish when everybody who could leave law enforcement did leave law enforcement. And our agency, we had a big brain drain. We had a lot of people just up and leave. Staffing went into the gutter and crime went through the roof.
Yeah.
And I found myself, it's like, oh, great. I'm a sergeant now. I'm supervising. And yeah, you made it. And you have my entire team probably had 1 year of combined experience.
Wow.
It was just, and they were dealing with just crime to a new level and staffing to new lows. And I was like, how do we get through this? How do I, it wasn't a question of like, are we going to stick to it? It was more of like, how do we handle this? And I had read some Stoicism at that point and really dove into it a little more and started practicing very heavily. And I said to myself, like, oh, I bet you there's plenty of, once you read some of the Stoics and the Marcus Aurelius and all that, it probably just, I mean, you read some of the Marcus Aurelius quotes. I'm sure you had the same assumption I did, that like, oh, somebody's already written a book for police. This is perfect for cops, right?
Yeah.
So I went to look for that book, and there was one other book written by a man named Bill Morrow, and he wrote a book called The Stoic Cop, and his book was good. It was more autobiographical, and it got me started, but I realized there was nothing else out there like a handbook for cops, how to apply this philosophy. So at that point, after getting all the benefits I got out of it, I just said, all right, this is what I'm doing. I guess I have the responsibility now to share it out with other people.
Right.
I'm sorry, Clee. The book was the second thing I did. The first thing I did was make streetstoic.com, that website, and I put all the resources out there for free.
Okay.
Yes, the book is for sale on Amazon, but it's more important to me that cops get this info. Any law enforcement, it's on there absolutely free. You don't have to sign up. I don't want your information. I'm not selling anything. It's there. Use it. If you don't get it from me, there's links to other people. Get it from them. I don't care. Do what you got to do. Get this. Use it. It's going to help you. So.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I know I read the book cover to cover. I found it very interesting. A lot of things, some of the quotes I read before, heard before, and others I haven't. So I learned a lot. And then how you explain how to apply them in day to day. And one of the questions I had, as you know, is applying this to law enforcement. How does it make law enforcement or first responder, period, how does it make their life better?
So, Stoicism, it is one of the key components of it is learning what's within your control and what's outside of your control.
Right.
And only really worrying about the things that you can control or the things that you have some power over. Like if I sit here worrying about whether or not the sun's going to come up tomorrow, like you guys should lock me up. I'm a crazy person. I have no control over that. And there's no point to it. There's a lot of other things that aren't as obvious, like whether or not that citizen likes you or whether or not your boss is having a good day and whether they decide to take it out on you or not. Like all those things are really outside of your control, and all you can do is do things that are within your control. And as I explain in the book, and as I tell people all the time, that is to behave with virtue, right? There's the 4 characteristics: wisdom, justice, I'm sorry, Clay. Wisdom, justice, discipline, and courage. And if you apply those 4 things to pretty much every situation, it will greatly improve your life. And you now have a game plan for everything that happens. And that's how it helps you out. It basically is the formula to lead a meaningful and a happier life. And if you follow these kind of this template that have been laid out by the ancients, then you'll have a lot less regrets. So that means you're going to have less fights with your spouse. You're going to wind up in the IA a lot less. You're going to waste a lot less time feeling mad about things that you can't control and aren't up to you, and you don't need to worry about. You're going to save a lot of time. You're going to save a lot of energy, and you're not going to have that anxiety, like, worrying about things in the future. How am I going to handle this if this happens? How am I going to handle that if this comes up or somebody says that? Stoicism addresses all that. How
Right.
to just kind of be in the present moment, live your life, and not sit there and I don't know if you've ever done this, or do you ever argue with people in your head like, oh, if they tell me this, I'm going to say that, or
Oh, yeah, yeah,
like,
yeah. Prepare yourself.
yeah, like, and a lot of us do this. A lot of cops do this. It's like, oh, if the lieutenant tells me this, I'm gonna tell him that, or like, oh, if this guy one more time has something slick to say about it, like, and it's about how to stop doing that and why it's so detrimental to your own mental health. And you're just sitting around, walking around angry all the time over something that hasn't even happened yet,
Yeah.
and it's crazy. So, yeah, there's a lot of different benefits to stoicism, but those are things that help me.
Right. And one of the chapters that I read was, and it's very prevalent now since there's been a quote unquote aggression towards cops, law enforcement, first
Right.
responders since the pandemic. And sometimes it seems like it's slowly going down, then it comes back up, then goes back down again. But one thing is that you're actively doing our job. And then you come across the disgruntled citizen who's mad
Right.
about whatever reason it because whatever.
Right.
And they're in your face. They're telling you're calling you every single name except the name that you were given.
Right.
And they're attacking the badge. They're attacking the uniform. But it does at times feel like it's very a personal attack on you. And I like how you explain in the book that taking yourself outside of it, the individual doesn't know you. They don't know your quirks. They don't know who you are as a person. So it's not a direct attack on you, and how to actually get by that and still do your job effectively. I mean, you explain that very well. You touch on a lot of points in the book, and that was one of my favorite because that's something that happens still today with officers that I work with now.
Yeah, and that was pretty much what I did. I sat down and I just, I'm sure you do the same thing. Like, people pull up and we call it car spooning. I don't know what you call it, but people pull up cars with you, right? Or you have those conversations out in the parking lot, and 18 years of talking to cops and being somebody who's dealt with that stuff. Gave me a lot of material. And so I basically just said, what are the things that upset cops? What are the things that take us from happy to disgruntled or, upset? And how can stoicism knock all those things down? And right towards the top of the list was being shit talked, right? Being insulted. Somebody, in this, I mean, yeah, like, they can call you pig or call you Nazi or whatever, but people get really racial too, right? And so that's a trigger for a lot of cops. And on both sides, like I get very offended when people call me things that make me sound like I am a racist or I am doing something for racial reasons. So if I didn't put anything else in the book, I wanted to put that in there, right? Is how do you handle it? Because I see cops in that moment dealing with that situation. And I was a field trainer for 10 years also. So I got to see a lot of this for the first time and got to watch people grow. But yeah, how you handle that, somebody's in your face. And obviously, if they're a physical threat, if they're bowing up, if they're about to go hands on with you, I mean, you do what you got to do. I mean, Merry Christmas, right? Like they were a jerk and they crossed that line, and now you get to do something about it physically. But when they're just screaming and yelling and we physically can't do anything about it, that's what's hard. That's what's hard for us to, and that's where cops, they want to clap back, they want to win the argument, they want to say something slick, and it always ends poorly for the cop, right? You get recorded, you get complained on, or if nothing else, you just feel like bad about what you said and did, and you weren't a professional, or somebody who loses respect for you. So, and stoicism offers a lot of techniques for when you're in that position. Consider the source, right? Think about, you don't know this person. This person, you would, if you had to make a financial decision, I would never call this person up and be like, hey, what do you think I should invest in this week? Hey, do you think I ought to sell my car for this much or that? Like, I don't respect them on that level. So why am I worried about their opinions about me? Right? Like, now I can give them some respect as a human being without mentally giving them that power over me of saying their opinion matters. Their opinion about me matters in any way. No, of course not. And same goes for all the people that they're showing off to, right? There's a crowd. Usually there is a crowd, right? There's like an audience, and any one of those people, like they don't pay your bills. They're not in your house. There is no reason for you to care one way or another what they think about what this person's saying. So that's considered the source. And then there's a lot of other things like, taking the 10,000 foot view, the view from above, like in a big scheme, how important is this really? How many cops in the world right now are getting shit talked and somebody's running their gums? Like, or does it actually hurt you? Or taking the view of like the whole timeline of of how long your life is and how short this little annoying moment is. So in Stoic philosophy, once you read through it all, it's full of good little advice about just, if you can find one of those little techniques and remember it in the moment, then it was worth it to read the book.
One of the tips that you shared in the book that I was doing already and didn't know that it was one of the tips or one of the Stoic philosophy type items was, and this is being seasoned as well. After a while, you show up on the scene and like, oh, here comes this guy. Yeah, you keeping it clean as best I can without dropping.
Right. Yeah.
You don't know anything. You don't know your shirt from a hole in the wall or whatever. I'm like, yeah, you're exactly right. My mom says the same thing about me. What else you got?
I know where you're going. Yep.
accepting the grading and then turning it back around as it. Whatever. You said this about me. Fine, I'll own it. Yeah, I've heard worse. Try harder.
Yeah. You don't know the half of it, right? Like. Man, if you really knew me, you would have a lot more to say right now.
Exactly.
And what do they do with it, right? Like, what can they do with it at that point? That's what I've heard from a lot of experienced law enforcement officers. People who have been in the game for a while. I had one. He got the book, and his name's Corey, and he got the book and he got really into it, and I gave him my email and my phone number. So, we've just been back and forth, and I wanted to track his journey, into Stoicism and him adopting the philosophy, because he just started to enjoy it. And, so he's moved well past me and what I had to offer. And he's going on to some of the source material and guys like Ryan Holiday and Jocko and, all those dudes. So, he texts me and he says, hey, Steve, you know what? I think I was already like 85% Stoic before I even met you. And I was like, yeah, that's what I get a lot. And, quickly, like, you already knowing that technique, or you're like, oh yeah, I've been doing that for years. Sure. You've been doing Stoicism already. And most senior cops, they've already figured a lot of stuff out. And so, my book or the philosophy in general will help bring you home. It'll take you from that 80 to 100, but really the young guys who've never heard this kind of stuff before, they benefit a little more than probably you would.
Yep. Absolutely. Stand by, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to take a pause for the calls with the Sergeant Be Safe cartoon, and then we're going to come right back with Sergeant Steve with this interview and jump on with a couple more questions here. Stand by.
Ooh, look at all the pretty butterflies in the sky. I guess I'll just cross the street here.
Oh, good. Light's green. I'm glad I can go. Oh my gosh, watch out.
Sergeant, be safe, be small, baby. Megan, watch out for that car. I got you.
Oh, geez. I didn't even see that car coming.
Oh my gosh, are you two okay?
Yes, we're okay. Megan, you have to do a better job paying attention.
I just wanted to cross the street.
I didn't see you walking there.
Megan, you just can't cross in the middle of the street. You have to go to the intersections and use the proper crosswalks. Wait for traffic to clear and then go. If you don't follow these simple directions, you could get a ticket for jaywalking, or worse, be hit by a car and seriously injured.
I'll be more careful from now on. Ooh! Look at the other butterfly!
Oh my goodness.
Sergeant Be Safe, you are the best.
This is very true. Thank you very much. I did have to turn on supersonic beast mode to jump and get Megan out of the way. Remember, folks, look both ways before crossing the street and wait till the intersection's clear and cross at the crosswalks. And that's your tip of the day to get you on your way.
And we are back on camera. Got Sergeant Steve Sweeting right here. We were discussing his book Street Stoic and Stoicism and the ancient philosophy of modern policing. And before we went to the break, we were talking about, one of the things you were talking about is that you were a former FTO as well. And one of the stories that I remember, and that was a good technique as well, especially for any FTOs that are on here that are just getting into it, or anyone who's just rookies who are just coming onto the job, just getting ideas and getting things, start getting those wheels turning. How you would go down a checklist when you were FTO of, you got a little bit of downtime, you're riding along with the new guy. What if we get to this house? Where are we going to park? How are we going to tactically park here? What if the dog comes running out the front door as soon as we get out the car? What if the kid comes downstairs and spills ice cream on your shoe? Or what if the mom opens the door and she's totally naked? And then that would what would I do if yes? What is the first thing you do? And you show up to a 911 hang up and you always come, or let's just say an alarm. You always come to this house for the alarm because the wiring's bad. And all of a sudden, this one time, this person's naked. What do? The game changed. Right. And it gets you thinking and it gets you talking as well. Mm-hmm. And I believe you also said that you FTO'd another officer where you practice tactical or combat breathing, which are interchangeable, which I learned early on too, getting excited for a hot call. And I do it now just because it's a calming feature, but doing the 4 seconds and I don't want to give too much away without reading the book. If you don't already know it, make sure you guys pick it up. But you explain those two situations well, and I was like, this is good information for law enforcement or any individual who's getting into becoming an FTO, or there's a rookie officer right there.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, since I've started, I've released a book and started talking to people and making speeches and doing podcasts, the biggest comment I've gotten from everybody is, everybody always wants to tell you like, oh, what you should do next, or what else, you should be doing. And there's a lot of interest in the FTO community, and they see the value as far as teaching emotional control, because 9 times out of 10, it's stress. The issue like geography or not doing a good investigation or talking on the radio or all the little things trainees struggle with, it's really stress. And if you can tackle stress from two points, one, the emotional control, and then also just the physical side of it, like the tactical breathing, like the box breathing, then they start to use their tools. They start to learn, when I have this problem, I would teach them to identify the triggers. Sometimes a trainee will hear their pulse in their ears. It'll like sound like flushing in their ears, where they'll start to get a little bit of auditory exclusion, like, oh, it's hard to hear. I can't, or obviously their heart rate, and some of them even get tunnel vision.
Yeah.
And that's why, like, when you're in a moment and you're the training officer and you're trying to tell a trainee something, sometimes you do have to yell, and it's not because you're being a jerk. It's because they physically cannot hear you because they have got there, So usually what I'm yelling at them is breathe, reminding them to do that box breathing and get that heart rate down. So, the other side of that is just if you expect something, if you know it's coming, if you're not shocked and surprised,
Mm-hmm.
then the effect it's going to have, like, yeah, if a fist fight breaks out and I'm not expecting it, I'm caught flat-footed.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to have one response. If you tell me, a week ahead of time, all right, Steve, you're going to go in here and you're going to go heads up with this guy. Like, I'm going to go into that fight a totally different guy, with a totally different mentality. And that's what that what if game, I call it premeditatio malorum, which is Latin for the premeditation of evils. And a lot of FTOs and a lot of people who were in FTO, they say, "Oh, this is the what if game, Steve. This is just the what if game," and it is, but it's doing it in an intentional way. And this is something that you can do, whatever your role is today. If you're a supervisor, you can, before you go into briefing, you can go, what if that officer is having a bad day? Right. What if the lieutenant gives me some crazy assignment because they like to do that? Or what if command staff does something I don't agree with? How am I going to act? The less you're taken off guard, the less you're caught by surprise, the easier it is to respond with virtue. And the easier it is to, you want to respond with kindness and some wisdom, and essentially not do anything you'll regret, and not do anything that when you lay your head down that night, you're going to feel bad about.
Right.
So anyways, that's what I try to do. And that's what it's about.
Gotcha. Thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
Reading the book and it's a wonderful philosophy in itself. And I know, and like I said before, I didn't even know it had a specific name. I didn't know it was a philosophy. A lot of the things, just by doing the job, most of us that are in first responding and law enforcement are already doing naturally, just because you learn what works and what doesn't work. And that now that I'm getting older, the running into the bar as soon as the call comes in because of the bar fight, and the first one in isn't the smartest thing to do, because I don't
think about it.
Kind of figuring out a game plan on the way there and kind of talking them down. It is a lot better. It's a lot easier on the soul.
Yeah, experience. Like that's what the game's all about. And I think going back to some books that are 2,300 years old and have been, this has been tried, but it worked on, like George Washington used this, Thomas Jefferson uses, Martin Luther King Jr. would give stoic advice to his followers during the civil rights movements. Like every time you see adversity or hardship or somebody fighting the good fight against long odds, stoicism just kind of pops up, like, oh, here I am, like it's crazy. General James Mathis, the former Marine Corps commandant, when he would go into Iraq, he had a copy of Marcus Aurelius' Meditations right there. Arnold Schwarzenegger, Teddy Roosevelt, Nick Saban, Tom Brady, Antonio Brown, and then like people you wouldn't expect, like T-Pain, all practicing Stoics. They've all found something in it that helps them out. And, it's really crazy. Like when you look into it and you see that like Mark Cuban and Jeff Bezos, they also practice those, like some of the richest people you've ever heard of, they're using this. And so you gotta say like, okay, how come they're taking this 2,300-year-old thing that I've never heard of and they're putting it to work? How come nobody's teaching us about it? How come nobody's telling the cops? So, yeah.
I know, and you've cited Marcus Aurelius and Seneca a lot throughout the book, and I'm like, wow, I've heard them phrased differently before, or maybe just quoted by other people, not remembering who said it or where I read it. But I mean, reading it all over again hits home. There's one. Let me see if I can. Page. I don't want to give too much away, but this one hit home with me.
Okay.
And I think I sent you the page. It's on page 123. Oh no, that's an insulting one. I'm sorry. It's the one where just going off the top of my head, the sheep don't regurgitate the vomit that they ate. They ingest it, and it shows physically through their wool. I mean, that's a quick summation of the Marcus Aurelius quote that I forget what page number it was on. I apologize, but I heard, you know, you don't, just because you ate all the grass, you don't have to regurgitate it and brag about that you ate all the grass. It shows
Right.
proof. I think that was page 116.
Yeah, and I think that was an Epictetus quote actually. He was a teacher of all the Stoics I talk about. You know, he was the one that worked with young people, was teaching them the philosophy and how to live a good life. And you know, he made that comparison because young people who had just learned all this stuff, they would, you know, they were very eager to like run up and just tell everybody everything they know. And we see that in our rookies all the time, right? Like they want to talk about probable cause, and they're doing eye nystagmus and doing DUIs on each other at shift parties, and you know, they're always telling their stories, and it's you know, that's fine. It's okay. They're excited. They're happy to be here. I get it. But Epictetus was saying, yeah, don't just say what you're about. Don't regurgitate, and you know, don't spit out all the talking points. Live it. You know, be about it. Don't talk about it. Be about it. Is what he was saying.
Yeah. And you're right. Yeah, that was page 116, ladies and gentlemen. So when you get that book, make sure you check that quote out. Absolutely. And so with your book, and how do you believe it builds stoicism, and that how you explain it throughout the book, it can build confidence in rookie cops, seasoned cops, and retirees?
Sure. Confidence is one of those things where you get it through experience, but you also, you know, you have it through knowing the answer. You know, if nothing else, Stoicism will give you a guide to follow just whenever you encounter a new situation. So I'm going to give you an example. I hope, fingers crossed, I'm not getting myself in trouble here. Recently, I got notified of an internal affairs investigation, a complaint against me, Sergeant Steve. And man, I got a good record. Like that is very upsetting to me to be like, oh, you did misconduct. It's totally unfounded. Trust me. Like it has nothing to do with anything remotely true. But so I'm sitting in my patrol car. You know, it's like, I don't know. I check my email probably 11:30 at night, and I'm not going to meet with the IA investigator until like 8 o'clock the next morning. So I have nothing to do but sit in my car all night long and be like, what is this shit? What are they? Blah, blah, blah. You know, and I just wrote a book. I just wrote this book about controlling your emotions and how to act. And here I am losing my cool. And I'm, you know, like I have a defensive part of me. Like, I'm going to tell him this. I'm going to be like, remember that time you did that? Blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm going to be, and stop it, Steve. Cut it out. You're going to go in there and you're going to follow your game plan. You're going to act with courage, discipline, justice, and wisdom. And you're going to be a good guy. You're not going to lie. You're not going to shade the truth. You're going to face it head on. And you're going to behave with virtue. And it is what it is. And that's what I did. Everything was fine. And, you know, once I caught myself, once I got out of that OODA loop of, oh, I'm going to say that, I'm going to say that. Once I got out of that and reminded myself of who I am and what I'm about, I was peaceful. I was calm. The rest of the night was fine because I already knew what I was going to do. So to me, that's what's so valuable about it. And, you know, it used to be when I was a real cop and out on the street answering calls, I would use a step to stay calm in the moment, you know, when I'm toe to toe with somebody. Now I honestly use it inside the walls of the police station a lot more often than I use it outside the walls of the police station. So it's really good for that too. Just dealing with those internal politics and that stuff that goes on.
Yeah. Unfortunately, yes, having an IA briefing is not fun, and especially hearing about it late at night during the beginning of the shift, and having to wait all night long to you thought your mind will play tricks on you, but then using your techniques and philosophy through that you teach in Street Stoic and Stoicism, it helps you actually not actually be on the road and learning how to do the job. It actually, like you said, is helping you function internally throughout the department. Do you believe that helps give you more meaning and purpose throughout the second phase of your career as being a supervisor?
Oh, sure. Like, it is really easy once you get 15, 18, 20 years in, the finish line's in sight for a lot of us. And once you get promoted to sergeant, I don't know how it is at some other agencies, the ranks are different, but you get a real good look behind the curtain. If you weren't already jaded, you start to see like, oh, these are actually just real people. Then they have their flaws, and all these people that you look up to are making these big decisions. You realize, oh, they're very human. And if you don't want to get crushed by that, you need to understand what's important in life and what you should be focusing on. And most of the most miserable people I know are the ones that are they're always worried about what somebody else is doing, what's on somebody else's plate. They're always in somebody else's business, worried about what somebody else is thinking or doing. And the happiest people just don't care, right? It just doesn't touch them. And so, yeah, it helps me in that regard. And it just understanding that I think Marcus Aurelius put it best. It's in his book, Meditations. Clea, have you ever read Meditations, the actual book from Marcus Aurelius?
I think I have an excerpt from it. It's probably about 100 pages, and I read it 10 or 15 years ago.
Okay. To me, I think, it's like my favorite book, right? Even better than my own book, which is saying a lot. So he starts the book, probably about 10 or 15% of the book is just him saying thank you to different people in his life, like his gratitude.
Right.
And then it starts out like really chapter 2 is the first real chapter. The very first chapter, or the very first passage in chapter 2 is him reminding himself, because this is his private journal, and he's just really writing notes to himself. And it's a note. He starts his book with a note saying, all right, remember, when you get up and going today, when you go to work, when you're out and about, people are going to be mean, and they're going to be hateful, and they're going to be ungrateful, and they're going to be petty, and they're what's he saying? They're going to be shitty to you. They're going to be trifling, is what he said. And he said, remember, don't hold it against them. And you still have to work with these folks. They're still people that you have to get along with, and you're, brothers and sisters in humanity, right? Like we are all one human race, and these are my brothers and sisters to some degree, and I need to find a way to get along with them and not get shrugged down or behave poorly just because that's how they're acting. It's about me. It's not about them.
Right.
I found it awesome that that's how he started his book. And I read that passage quite often before I go into a shift briefing or a meeting. I'll read that passage and I'll remind myself, it's not about them. They can't make me act out of character. Only I can allow that. And that's my goal in every situation, is to act within my character. So that's how I keep sane, and that's how I keep happy. And that, I think, to me, those internal politics and that, being around the station, that's the best part of it, is just not letting that stuff knock you into, you come in, you're having a good day, everything's going great, not letting yourself get ambushed, and then all of a sudden I'm having a bad day.
Right.
They're all good days. They're all good days if you let them.
That's good philosophy. It works in-house and out-house again, because you got the in-house politics where you walk in and, all of a sudden you just get bombarded with things that you weren't even aware of. And it's for us seasoned cops, it's kind of like it's expected now because it's happened a few times, but you expect it out on the street. Like it doesn't surprise you as much that you're going to come across someone who's not going to be too happy to get pulled over, or that you respond to someone's house for a domestic and one person may be overly cooperative and the other person's not cooperative at all. It's not surprising. It's expected, but they have to deal with it inside the department as well. It gets frustrating, but to understand, you're believing this, they can't affect my attitude. So either way, you just kind of stay in that calm while the hurricane's going on right around you.
Right. And yeah, Marcus Aurelius, he would do a lot of analogies or parables, things like that. And one of the ones he wrote about was you want to be like this rock that's out in the ocean, and the storms all around you, and the waves are crashing and all that, but you just stay firm. And he says eventually those waves, they calm down. The storm ends, they calm down, everything's peaceful again, and you just be the rock. You be there, whether it's calm, whether it's stormy. You just be what you are. I got a lot from his writings.
Yeah, it would. What would be is your favorite quote? Would it be a Marcus Aurelius quote, or do you have a quote that's like your go-to or your number one, or that's my thing?
There's so many, and yeah, it is really hard to pick a favorite. I think I offer a newsletter on my website, and it's called the Bravo One newsletter, and so it's kind of tongue in cheek, and I'll let you guys in on the joke. It comes from one of my favorite quotes, which was from Marcus Aurelius, and he says, "Stop arguing about what a good man should be and be one." So be one, Bravo One. Yeah, that's where it comes from, and it's. I think at a certain point, like we can talk, and everybody can have opinions, and I think we get a lot of that. We get a lot of people saying, "No, this is the right way to be. This is the right way to be. This is," and at a certain point, it's like, "Shut up! Stop arguing. Go out there and follow your heart. Do what you know is the right thing to do." Chances are, no matter how much we argue or whatever, we're going to be right within a couple of degrees of each other. And stop talking, start doing is, I think, probably a big message from a lot of the Stoics.
Right. So with your book, like you said, if anyone wanted to get a copy, what's the best way of going about doing that?
Amazon Prime is the best way. Just type in Street Stoic or my name, Steve Sweeting, and it'll take you straight to it. Also, if you go to streetstoic.com, there's plenty of links on the website that'll get you there.
Right. And individuals who got your book and read it, and you've talked with them, what are some of the highlights that they share with you that you can share with us?
One guy. Do you know Daniel Rendering?
I don't know.
Does the name sound familiar? Anyways, he's one of our famous cops. He was on the TV show Survivor, and he also does a lot of like magazine covers and like fitness kind of things. Okay. Anyways, I got him a copy of the book, and he read it, and his comment, I think, he'll shoot me a text, and he's like, "Hey, Steve, I did Stoicism today. Hey, bro, check it out." Like it, he's pretty great. He's very encouraging, and he was telling me about a time when somebody was giving him a hard time, and he's like, "In the past, I would have done it differently. I would have made a big deal about this, and I thought about the book, and I thought about trying this stuff, and I said, hey, that's not within your control, and it's not something for you to worry about. Do nothing." Right. And it turned out good for him, and he was proud of himself for applying that technique. To me, that is my favorite part. That is hearing the little stories about, oh yeah, I reached into my little tool bag and I pulled something out and it worked. And hearing those stories, that excitement from people of, because I know they're on a good path, and I know that, like, my book is not definitive. You're not going to have a master's degree in Stoicism by the end of it. Like, I'm just practicing. I would not call myself a philosopher or a expert by any means, but every time I can use a little something or give somebody something to use, I know that they will get excited about it, and they will take the next steps on their own, because that's what cops do, right? If they find something that works, I don't need to tell you how to go find books about Stoicism. You're going to do that. YouTube is full of it. So just go, like, everybody has Google. All I need to do is show you how it can work for you, and then you're fire and forget. You'll figure it out.
Yep.
So,
absolutely. Yep. Thank you for sharing that. And stand by, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. We're going to skip to a commercial quick, and we will come right back. Stand by.
Dispatch, put me out at 5th and Main. There's a car blocking the roadway. They may be broke down. I'm gonna go check on them. Oh, now that I have a closer look, I don't think they're broke down. Excuse me, sir. Is everything okay?
Yeah, I was just pulled over answering a text and looking something up on my maps.
Okay, but you're blocking the road, and we can't have that.
It's only for a second. Besides, cars can go around me.
It doesn't matter if it's for a second or for a lifetime. You can't block the roadway. That's not fair to other cars that have to go around you.
Oh, I didn't think it mattered. I guess you're right.
If you have to check your text messages or enter something into your maps while you're driving, pull all the way over to the side of the road, or better yet, find a parking lot and pull in there.
There's a parking lot right up there. I'll go up there to plug in the address.
Thank you, sir. I truly appreciate it.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Sergeant. Be safe.
You're welcome. And that way, we can keep the roadway clear to avoid potential accidents. And that's your tip of the day to get you on your way.
And we are back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome back to Black and Blue. We have special guest Sergeant Steve Sweeting in his book, Street Stoic, The Ancient Philosophy of Modern Policing. Make sure you guys go get your copy. Going to ask a couple more questions here about the book and situations and how this philosophy can apply to, let's say, this is a high stress job, and we mentally, physically, and emotionally. And it takes a toll on us as first responders and law enforcement, and therefore collateral damage. It takes a toll on our families and friends as well. How can you suggest or give tips that are in the book on how we can at least alleviate some of the stress in our lives, so we can still maintain the proper relationships with those who are affected by us and the job?
Yeah, I would say. After I started practicing Stoicism, I became a much better husband, a much better son and brother and friend. And it's probably because a lot of what Stoicism teaches or has to talk about is controlling your own ego, controlling your own anger. And it very much against anger and hostility. And it teaches that you're only hurting yourself by allowing yourself to be angry about these things, and understanding that, and this is going to get a little deep into Stoicism. I don't know if we'll have a lot of time to talk about it, but the idea is the opinion you take of something, or your judgment about a situation or a person or an event, whatever your opinion about it is, your emotions will follow that. So in that way, if you take the right opinions, you can have better emotions. If you're basically happier, lighter, feeling better about things, less angry, then of course you're going to be better to be around in general. One Stoic quote is every interaction with a person is an opportunity for kindness. And I think that's something we all need to remember, is that no matter what happens, if somebody says something nasty to you or unthoughtful or just a little bit rude or whatever, like, you don't have to come back with that same energy. You can just decide ahead of time, no matter what they do or say, I'm just going to be kind. And that doesn't mean being a punching bag or just taking a bunch of crap for no reason. Like, you don't have to put up with abuse, but people have a bad day. And you're not the most important thing in everybody's life all the time. So, understanding, like, hey, get your ego in check, get your anger in check, and then try to respond with a little bit of kindness. And what I found is when somebody comes at me nasty and I just go, hey, I'm sorry to hear you feel that way or whatever. And I come back with like, do you want to talk about it? Do you want to get it off your chest? That's fine. I won't be offended. All of a sudden it de-escalates the situation. And that's one thing I tell a lot of cops is like, de-escalate yourself first.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure you're not bringing negative energy into a bad situation. And yeah, absolutely. It helps quite a bit in the home life, and just understanding that your anger doesn't get you anything, and understanding how you can. I just wrote an article about, let's say the teenage prom queen. It's the night before the big dance.
Mm-hmm.
And she trips and falls and knocks out her front tooth.
Ooh.
Right?
Yeah.
It's horrible. It's the worst thing that's ever happened. The pictures, her date isn't going to want to go with her. The pictures, she's not going to get the crown or whatever it is. Very same tooth, very same situation happens to a 6-year-old child running along. Boom, they knock out that front tooth. It's a rite of passage. They're excited. They're happy. They can't wait to show you that tooth.
Yeah,
the tooth fairy's going to come and give them a present. Very same tooth. You got a hockey player. They're out there playing hockey, doing what they love. Boom, tooth gets knocked out, and they don't even react. They just keep on playing, because that's what happens when you play hockey. That's what happens when you live life, right? Things happen. You can choose to look at it like the prom queen. You can choose to look at it like the kid, or you can just be like the hockey player and say things happen in life. And pretty much every situation there, other than like the death of a loved one, granted, like some things, there's not a bright side to everything. But most everything else, you can choose to look at it like the prom queen. You can choose to look at it like the little kid that's going to get the tooth fairy. And your attitude and your emotions will follow whatever choice you make. So the practice of stoicism in a lot of ways is about practicing, okay, how do I look at this in the good light? How do I look at this as a positive? So that is, I have this tattooed on my arm. I don't know if you guys can see it.
Yeah. I read it throughout the book. Yeah, armor fatty. I probably said it incorrectly though.
Right. It's amor fati. And it like the song that's amore. Amore it means love, and fate is fate, and it is the love of your fate. It is and it's seeing everything that happens to you as it's going to be beneficial, or it's going to be useful, or this thing needed to happen so that I could become the person that I need to be.
Right.
And you don't become the person you need to be, through like rainbows and sunshine and puppies and happy days, right? Like I didn't become a strong guy or somebody who's resilient because everything went great. Some bad things had to go into the mix for me to develop into the person who can handle life situations and be the person that can go out there and save lives and teach other people how to help and serve their communities. So a lot of negative things are necessary if you look at it in those terms. And that's how you can be truly resilient. That's how, if you can look at things as, all right, how does this help me? How does this benefit the world? How does this benefit Steve or Khalid? Then all of a sudden there's nothing bad. And that's pretty powerful.
Yeah. It reminds me of a phrase. Yeah, good advice from Shayla. Absolutely. It reminds me of a phrase I heard. Everything's an opportunity, whether it's perceived as good or bad. It's an opportunity to either get better through the storm or elevate or whatever you need to do. It's just like you've given great analogies all the way through. And listening, it reminds me of the analogy of, gold doesn't become refined gold until it's burned. It has to go through the purifying. It has to go through that fire. No one wants to get burnt through the fire, but the fire is necessary to come out shining like pure gold. And those are the trials and tribulations, and that's an opportunity as well.
Absolutely, and I think pretty much not just the Stoics, but anybody wise that you listen to or somebody you follow, that somewhere within their work, they're going to tell you the same thing, right? Like smooth seas don't make good sailors.
Yep.
I think JFK said, like, we don't do these things because they're easy. We do these things because they're hard.
Yeah.
It could go on and on. I'd talk about this crap all day. But the point is, right? Adversity makes you strong. And if you're a person who can appreciate that, then you're having a good life regardless of what happens. So, yeah.
So one of the buzzwords that goes on in our arena is community policing. You hear community policing all the time. You hear functions, you hear shop with the cop, coffee with the cop, national night out soon to be coming up, things along those lines. How can the Stoic philosophy be implemented with community policing to both benefit law enforcement and the public itself?
Sure. I've already touched a little bit on just taking those opportunities for kindness. And I'll pretty much look at every interaction with a person as treat people like family, right? Like, everybody is somebody's son, everybody is somebody's daughter, they're somebody's brother. You just don't know them,
right?
Like, and a lot of times that's just the difference. I think, like, when have you ever run across somebody or haven't seen for a very long time out there on the streets, and they're screwing up, they're having a bad day, or they're in an argument, but they don't get treated the same way that the last person doing the same exact thing did, right? And it's just because you know them,
right?
Treat everybody like that person,
Yeah.
And I'm not saying be soft on crime or be tolerant of bad behavior, but I am saying you can respond with kindness and you can be understanding. It doesn't mean you're not going to do your job. And I do coats for kids. I collect clothing all year long, and because this is Florida and it gets ridiculously hot and humid, people forget that there is a cold winter. It's only a week long, but it gets really cold, and a lot of families that don't have resources don't prepare for it. And so these kids come to school, they're wearing a t-shirt and shorts, they're freezing, because 20 degrees is 20 degrees, whether you're in Florida or, up north. So anyways, I get with the school resource officers, I give the coats for the kids, and it makes me happy. Like, I do it for me, it makes me happy to know that when it's cold and it's freezing out, these little kids, they're not without. They're going to have a little jacket. They know somebody cares about them. I don't put my name on it or anything like that. I just, here you go. And if they know it came from a police officer, that's really all we want, because we want to build those, build that relationship with the community. And I think Stoicism overall, it's a lot of the books about Stoicism and a lot of the ancient text or whatever, the translations will roughly translate to like a guide to the good life, or how to live a happy life, something to that effect. It's kind of hard with Greek and Latin, and it's a lot. But I think when we talk about going to community meetings and dealing with like National Night Out and those sorts of things, like, if you know what's good in life, if you have these values, and you're talking in terms of virtue and value and ethics, and you're living this, people are going to see that.
Yeah,
they're gonna say, there's a good person, and that good person happens to be wearing a badge. If we can build some community trust even in that way, if you just be the example, and it could change the world. It could change your whole profession. So
good answer, and way to give back. I know that's we got in this profession to give of ourselves, to be of service, and there's many ways to be of service, and giving back is part of our DNA, whether we believe it or not. That's what we do. So kudos to you as well.
Well, thank you.
Let me ask you, this may be kind of off Stoicism philosophy, and maybe it is. I'm not sure. I'll let you be the judge. But one question that we get here on the podcast here, Black and Blue, is recruitment and retention. With a lot of departments nationally, but especially globally, but especially nationally. Let me correct that. Are going through a crisis with recruiting applicants that are top notch. Not just getting
Right.
people who there's an opportunity here. Let me just feel my way through, and I don't like this, and no, go recruiting the individuals who actually want to do the job, who answer the call, and seasoned vets who are maybe 10, 15, 20 years in the game, and the pandemic hit, and like you already said, there was a mass exodus from the past 3, almost 4 years now. Those who could get out got out very quickly. What would you say to anyone, the two-part question, what would you say to anyone who's kind of got their foot in the water where they're like, I kind of want to get into law enforcement, but I don't know what should be the best decision for me, what should be the best angle? And the second half, seasoned vet, I see the light at the end of the tunnel. I'm losing faith. I'm not enjoying this. It seems like we're losing the war against everything. What would you say to them to get them to hang on a little longer?
Sure. I think I'll start with the seasoned vet and then go to the aspiring rookie.
Gotcha.
So there's not I can't pull up a quote. There's no quote good enough that I'm going to tell somebody that's been burnt out for 20 years, to make them all of a sudden feel happy about doing the job. What I think burnout is the biggest thing that makes people retire when they could keep going, and being disenfranchised and feeling like you have no purpose. Stoicism does teach a lot about role ethics and understanding your role, understanding, number one, what's important in life, what you should spend your time chasing after, and what you should just leave alone. And then, two, what your role is in any given situation, because it is stressful if you don't know, hey, what's expected out of me here? What am I supposed to do? That's stressful. It is. You've probably heard a lot of people under duress that say, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
I don't know what you want me. Right. And so Stoicism does teach a lot about role ethics and how to know what your role is, fill your role, and do it well. So if a experienced law enforcement officer would, put their ego aside and say okay, maybe I don't know everything about everything. Yes, you've seen a lot, but maybe I haven't seen it all. And just listen and maybe try to practice this stuff. And I have had experience with several officers who are salty and disgruntled, and they've looked at the stuff and they said, hey, you know what? I do feel a little bit better. I've tried to put some of this to work and it is helping. And I think by having that greater sense of purpose, by having a way to address, so burnout is really just a buildup of all these grievances, right? You're mad at the chief for something that happened in 1984. You're pissed off at your shift commander for something that happened last month. You're mad at, this one neighborhood because one time they didn't help you and you're really trying to arrest this one person. And you're mad at the judge because they didn't prosecute on this thing and you knew they were guilty. You have this whole buildup of grievances. And that's why rookies are happy and the experienced people are unhappy, is because they don't have all this collection of crap in their head, right? And so Stoicism teaches you how to forgive and let that stuff go. And when you can forgive and let things go, all of a sudden that big pile of stuff in your head that's clogging you up, making you miserable, just gets a little smaller. It gets a little smaller. And all of a sudden, the fun parts of the job and the camaraderie and the good stuff starts maybe to outweigh that bad stuff. And so that's what I would say to the senior people who are, it's not about the agency. It's not about the command staff. They all always complain about the agency, the command staff, the community, the war on police, the blah, 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 blah. Bro, it's about you. It's about you, how you approach life and how you use your noodle. And you can, a lot of this is a choice, and you can choose to be happy with your situation. And there is a way, and Stoicism's a great way to get there. For the new person that's thinking about getting into law enforcement, I would go for it. Do it. The doors are wide open like never before. All right. If you want to go out and you're oh, I want to be chief of police. Guess what? The time will never be better than right now because nobody is in your way. Lots, right?
You're absolutely right.
it is the playing field has been cleared. Like all the people who aren't here for the right reasons, or like all the people that are just disgruntled, anybody who can go and is not a good person to be around, they're gone. They're about to be gone. The only people sticking around is the survivors, the tough people that got a good head on their shoulders, that know how to deal with some things. There's probably a couple like lingering that are just stuck and waiting for that pension to kick in or whatever, and they're hiding under the oak tree. But most of the people, anybody who's doing something or active or still in the game, that's a person you want to know, and that's a person you want to be around, and that's a person that's going to help you live a better life. And so, yeah, I would say a lot of the crap has been cleared out, and it's a great time to get in and take part in this profession. And no, it's not going to be easy. If you want easy, just go join the army. I'm just kidding, Clee. I just wanted to mess with you. I just wanted to mess with you.
Good one. Yeah, you got hers back. There you go.
Yeah, I wasn't going to let it slide, man. No, if you want easy, there's a lot of things you can do in life. Like, nobody wants to work anymore. If you'll just show up and work and you're not addicted to fentanyl, like, you're good. You can pretty much work anywhere. If you want to have a purpose to your life, if you want to do something hard and you want to challenge, and you're about a little bit more than showing up collecting a paycheck, I got a challenge for you. Come on. And that's what I would say. And a lot of the recruits and the young people I talk to, they're down for that. They have been helicopter parented. They have been living in this Nerf world.
Yeah.
They have had every lecture and every talk they've had. It's been like, before it, there's all these disclaimers, and I don't want to hurt your feelings, and nobody just says what they want to say. Like, these young people are sick of it. They want you to tell them the real truth. They don't want you to sugarcoat it. They want a challenge. They want to live a life of meaning, and they don't want to be seen as like these fragile people that can't hear a hard truth or aren't ready for a tough time or whatever. That's not who's signing up to be a cop anymore. Right. That person never thinks about signing up for the police academy. That's not a thought that goes into their head. The people we're getting are the ones that do it anyways, and they want that tough, strong leadership, and they want these skills. They want to learn how to suck it up and not be like the rest of everybody else. So, yeah. I would say go for it. If you're thinking about it, just do it.
Good answer, and I enjoyed listening to that, minus the Army part. However, it was interesting because I've heard different aspects or different viewpoints, perspectives on that, on the idea of rookie officers or individuals coming into the job. But I mean, it's clear as that I've never heard that the game is the field's wide open. And it really is. And it's the first time, you get in, and wherever you want to go, you pretty much can maneuver a lot more easily than you could when you or I started. I remember, at least when I started, there was 300 people to show up to take the test when there was only 3 positions to get filled. I remember that. Now it's kind of like you can, you really can work right in, and we're not getting the numbers, and it's very easy to get in and work your way up. Absolutely. Good point.
Yeah. You want a real career with benefits, and the benefits are starting to get a lot better for cops in a lot of places, because people are coming to the realization like, oh, we need these guys. And I, as an experienced police sergeant, I can go anywhere I want. I can go anywhere I want, and I can command a good paycheck. Somebody with no IA history and lots of tools and experience and lots of training, like, you can go anywhere. And and that's not, you don't have to be me. You can get 2 years experience. You can go to the FBI, man. Like, for real. You can go federal. I've seen lots of young guys that would never have had a chance to go fed. Never. They're not that smart. Like, I know them. They're not that smart. They would have never got to be feds before.
Yeah.
But now the feds are snatching them up. And it's nothing but opportunity. Like, yeah.
Straight up sharing. Thank you. Yep, we're gonna pause for the cause, and we're gonna come right back with one final question and comment, and we'll be right back. Sergeant Be Safe is gonna take over. Give him 2 minutes. We'll be right back.
This is a good drink. I like this place.
I like it too. Mario, let me get another one.
Well, Jizz Louise, you guys each had enough.
Hey guys, don't you guys look nice?
Now your fools want to show off. She's talking to me.
No, dummy. She's talking to me.
You want to see me outside?
I see you now.
They're fighting over me.
Hey, you guys need to break it up. You're wrecking my place. Hey, Sergeant Better Safer, I need you here now.
Welp, I got a few pics of them. I'm out.
You foes knocked each other out. Megan, don't you live?
Like Popeye when it's time.
Looks like we're right on time again. I don't understand why you guys are fighting. I just saw Megan leaving. Was it for that?
It's because she liked my profile picture.
We're connected. Insta-talk.
Sounds like she played both of you. Isn't that right, Kraken? Sergeant to be safe. Captain Chaos, you guys saved the day again. You guys are the true heroes. Thank you, Mario. We appreciate it. Once again, these two are going back to jail. Part of their punishment is they're going to have to pay for all of these damages. And that's your tip of the day to get you on your way.
And we are back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome back to Black and Blue. After that quick commercial with Sergeant Be Safe in the bar fight. It's one of my favorite ones. They got a couple voiceovers. They don't want me to give them the accolades they deserve, so I told them I won't do it while we're live. But it's some tremendous individuals who are the voiceovers. I'm not just saying me. There are some tremendous individuals that donate their time. But we are back here with Sergeant Steve Sweeting, and we were discussing his book. Make sure you guys get a copy, Street Stoic, right there. And through the course of conversation, we had a wonderful conversation. I learned a lot. I enjoyed interviewing you here on the podcast. Thank you for making yourself available. But I may have forgot to ask a question, or I may have jogged your memory on a topic or a situation that you wanted to cover, and it didn't get the opportunity to. Right now, the floor is yours. Is there anything else that you would like to share with us?
Number one, I would just, you had me laughing with the cartoon. That Insta talk, that was great, man. That was good stuff. And I want to talk about you, Clee. So sorry to put you on the spot, but I think I told you earlier in the week, I sent you a message where I had been watching some Kevin Hart, and I've always been very impressed with his work ethic, how many things he has going on with his company and his productions. And it's amazing. And I see that in you, I see you making these cartoons and doing this podcast, and your book, and your just all these things you have. It seems like you have a lot of fires going, and it reminds me of somebody who is practicing Stoicism. It reminds me of somebody who is understands that in Stoicism, we didn't really get to go down the whole list of Stoic practices or things like that. But I guess now there is a reason to buy the book. Anyways, one of the practices is called Memento Mori, and I don't know if you can see in my background over here. I'm horrible at like looking backwards and doing this,
Uh-huh.
but I have all these skulls, and it's not
Mhm.
because I'm morbid or anything, but it's because there's this Stoic practice called memento mori, which is remembering that the simple fact that we're going to die, right?
Yeah.
At some point, the story's going to be over, and a lot of people live their lives like they just don't want to think about it. They don't look at it. They put blinders on, and if you were constantly aware of the fact you're going to die, like it's not as morbid as it sounds.
Right.
It's inspirational. It's because I don't have time to watch 8 hours of Netflix this weekend. I've got stuff to do. I'm going to die, and I got some things I want to accomplish before that happens because it's going to happen. It's probably going to happen soon, I think. And if I want to get to my goals and reach all the people I want to reach and help all the people I want to help, and if I want to change law enforcement for the better, I don't have time to sit there and watch Instatalk or whatever, whatever they said on the cartoon. I mean, I do enjoy some of that. Don't get me wrong. I spend time with my wife. We watch TV. I'm not a robot that is like a grind machine, but I think you and I have that in common where we have a purpose, and we know that nobody's going to do it for us, and time's a wasting. And so, yeah, that's I saw that in you, and I wonder, do you have any kind of memento mori mindset, or do you, is that something that resonates with you?
Yes, it is actually. Wow, I'm not used to being put on the spot on my own podcast. But here it is. Yes, I don't know where the thought came from, or I can't give you an origin story. But I get bombarded with so many ideas, so many things that I want to publish, so many goals that I want to accomplish that are positive for the law enforcement community and other dreams and aspirations that I have. And Les Brown said a quote that it's one thing that resonated with me for a long time. And it was some guy. He says the quote that an individual was on his hospital bed and he was getting ready to die, and he had all his family around him, and he also had all the ghosts of the dreams that he ever had and all the accomplishments that he ever had around his bed, with large angry eyes looking at him, saying, "We came to you, and only you could have given us life, and now we have to die with you forever." And that's one thing that hits me, because there's so many things that I want to do. There's so many ideas I have that there's not enough time in the day to get it all done, to get it to my level of appreciation of wanting to have it done the way I want it. There's so many things. Yes, it's fun doing it. It doesn't feel like work, but it's very stressful. It is a lot of work, but I enjoy doing it. And I'll probably continue working tonight when we're done with the podcast. And I know I have things that I already have set in stone for tomorrow and throughout the rest of the week.
Yeah. And I absolutely feel the same way. I wake up in the morning and I go until I lay down at night, or actually I wake up at night and then I go until I go into bed in the morning, because I'm a midnight shifter, but I don't stop. But if I was just working overtime or whatever, it would feel like a grind. It would feel like work. But because I'm chasing my goals and I'm doing things that I find fascinating, I'll read something about like some ancient person or like Athens, Greece or whatever, and it'll spur in me 20 ideas that are like, oh, cops need to hear about this or that, or this is like that. And all of a sudden I have to go write an article about it, or I have to write another chapter in the next book about it. And I generally, like, I'll text myself. Do you do that? All right. Yeah.
And it's just, if not, or I put it in my notes in my phone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I used to have notebooks, but it's like my whole house is covered in these. So I just text myself, and but it's like there you go, random collection, like all these little thoughts that come to me, and sometimes it's like, oh, bees make honey, and it's like, what did that mean? Like, what were you thinking? But usually I'll figure it out, like, oh, all right, a good guy, there's a product to the work or something like that. But it's a great way to live, honestly. I think a lot of people say, like, it would be hard to live that way, or it's too much, or and I wonder how people are living not enough.
Yeah.
So I
think it's very difficult to live not pursuing your dreams and purpose once you actually are focused and decided on what you want and have to do. I don't see any other way.
You know, Kevin Smith. Have you ever seen anything by him? The director, Kevin Smith.
Not as far as I know, not off the top of my head.
So you know, he wrote like Jay and Silent Bob and Dogma and Chasing Amy and all those things.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, he you know, he has a great quote where he talks about, you know, in the absolute 100% certainty that you are going to die. The absolute 100% fact that that's how your story ends.
Yes.
Why on earth would you not chase your wildest dreams? Why would you not go after every single thing? You already know you die.
Yeah.
Like, you're not getting out of this alive. Why wouldn't you do everything you want to do?
Yeah.
Why? So to me, that's always, even before Stoicism, I was like, man, that's so powerful. And, you know,
I think David Goggins, and I might be misquoting him too, we all know how the story ends, but it's our job to fill it to the best of our ability. And one of the things he said is, you know, he believes that when we die, God has a list of all our accomplishments that we're supposed to have in life, and he wants to exceed that list times 10 to the point where he accomplishes things that's not even on God's list before he leaves this earth. I'm like, man, now that's high level thinking.
Only Goggins, man, is like, hey, God, I'm going to one up you. Like, no, I love that. Yeah, I've heard that, you know, and Goggins is like, yeah, this is who we're supposed to be. How come you didn't get it? You know, how come you weren't that person? You had it. You had it all, everything you needed to get there.
Yep. Yeah. Wow, you caught me off guard with that one. I'm not used to being, Shayla, we have a lot in common, and he put me on the spot. I know. So it's a good thing. It's a lot of fun. I enjoyed doing these, and I enjoyed having you on the show. I definitely, this won't be the first or last time that I read this book, because I took a lot of gems from it. I read it for more so for the podcast itself. I learned a lot of things, but I also like to read for education and enjoyment as well. And it's not enough hours in the day, because I'm normally reading 2 books at the same time.
Right.
And listening to one audio while I'm at work, but I will revisit this one. I definitely will.
That's great. Yeah, let me know if you have any questions, and I really appreciate you shouting it out to everybody and letting people know about it. And it's just important to me to get the information out there, however people want to receive it. So
absolutely. And I look forward to watching you flourish. You be safe on the job, and I will make sure that we keep in contact throughout the season of this career.
100%. I want to come back. I want to talk to you some more. So.
Absolutely. We'll make sure that gets done. Yep. Great information. Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, thank you guys for tuning in. This is the episode of Black and Blue, where we go live at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time weekly. We go live with a special guest, with they're either a law enforcement or first responder, with their trainings, their publications, or their experiences. Sorry, I got taken out of my OODA loop for a minute, but and we have a lot of fun doing it. So if you're a rookie officer and you're looking to find your way, this is your place. If you're a seasoned officer and you're looking to hear other trainings, publications, or experiences, or to hear other people's stories, this is your place. If you're a retiree and you still want to hang on and you love hearing the stories, this is your place. And citizens, the public who don't know what we do, and that we do are human beings, and we have feelings, and that we have other interests that we pursue, and we love to serve, and you want to hear about those stories, this is your place too. I'm your host, Coach Clee, your motivational speaker, your empowerment coach, your author, and your favorite baker, saying 10-4, over and out.
Hey, bro, we got next game.
Bro, what's going on?
We got this pickup game we're about to get started.
I got a bag full of treats.
Come on, man. Don't nobody want your treats.
Treats? What kind of treats?
Vapes, pills, and drugs.
Whoa, what do you mean?
Don't tell your parents.
Looks like I'm right on time. What's going on here?
There's Sergeant Be Safe. I gotta get a picture.
Oh, man, be safe.
Treacherous Tony, we know you're up to no good. What's in that bag right there?
What bag?
Sergeant, be safe. It's his drugs. He tried to sell it to us.
Thanks, big guy, for letting me know.
You're welcome.
You kids get out of here.
Treacherous Tony, drop the bag and come over here.
You'll have to catch me first.
Don't run, or you're gonna get tased.
All right. Taser, taser, taser.
All right. I give up. I won't do it again.
That's right. Your drugs will be disposed of. So put your hands up. You're coming with us.
I'm sick of going to jail.
Listen up, kids. Don't use drugs, vapes, or pills. They're not good for you. And that's your tip of the day to get you on your way.